You look the same. We all look like a good group.
I almost thought he was preaching tonight. I didn't see the white collars.
Oh,
Looks like it.
That's real close to where my son lives,
Okay,
real close.
Uh-oh.
Man.
let's
Oh,
get some
burned
gravy.
out.
It's,
That looks-
it's a hearty meal.
Okay, now we're good.
There we go.
There we go.
There's light.
I think we got it. Call to order the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for Monday, May 8th, 2023.
June 12th.
I'm sorry.
Almost.
Yeah. That's not gonna work. Roll call.
Rocco Gonzalez,
Here.
Mark Easter, Mark Piatek,
Here.
Tom Holman. Aaron Hagedorn,
Here.
John Borman.
Here.
Chuck Watson,
Here.
Chad Rigg,
Here.
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 Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance. First item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the last meeting.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Item number 3 and number 4 are kind of together.
No.
Oh, okay.
Nope.
File number 230601, preliminary plat Highland Meadows, plat 7.
Yes, and as I stated in my staff report, we will have a correction on the final plat, just that the numbering is off. There's actually already been a 7 and an 8 north of here, so we will make sure that they are aware of that before that gets recorded. But as I get started, you can see here, this is the next proposed phase of Riverbend Estates on the, what we have been calling the High Street extension on the southern portion of High Street. That actually, obviously, is an old aerial. High Street is now built all the way down to Sophia. If you haven't been down there, that is connected to Autumn Leaf. But you can see here is the existing parcel, and the zoning, it is actually still in what we call Senior Community District, this SCD. This is actually a district we no longer have in our code, but anything that was there previously is now grandfathered. It was basically a planned district prior to 2017, 2018, when we did our code amendment for planned senior housing. Now, which would just fall under PDR, but obviously they can still utilize it as it was previously. And what they're proposing to do is to separate the lot into two lots here, one for phase 3 and one for phase 4. As you can see, they do have a laser pointer. So per the code, you have to have right-of-way frontage. So that's why you can see they have this up here. This is actually along the creek embankment. But it does meet code by allowing that right-of-way frontage. But what they're actually utilizing here is a cross-access easement to the north to give them access to the back lot for future development. And you can actually see here the fire lane for phase 3 crosses both, but that's why they have it in a cross-access easement, and in the future it can be utilized by both developments. There's no minimum lot size in this senior community district. It just has the right-of-way frontage requirement. As well as the easements and everything that are needed to be shown on there. And then this was not in your packet, but I just wanted to show you what they had sent to us. You can kind of see how it fits into there with one main access, or I'm sorry, 2 access points off of High Street here, and then the access to the back you can see for the 8.24 acres for the lot that they're creating. So we recommend approval, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Any questions or comments by board?
So the back lot, will that have 2 access points to that, to both drives? The future
That may be a
development?
question for the applicant. They have the easement shown on this north side here. But how it actually, they may have, it looks like,
I
yeah,
see
right
it's
here as well.
stub there, right,
Yeah.
that's why I was asking.
Yeah, so yeah, the easement does wrap around here. So yeah, they'll have the ability for two.
Okay.
You're actually saying north, which what you're looking at is actually the west. Look at your arrow on your plan and your,
Well, this is the north, no, I mean, because if you look,
Yeah, it's north.
it's north, this is where,
yeah, but what you were pointing to.
yeah, this is turned sideways, so
Yes.
north is over here.
Yes, right,
So this is the north side of the lot, I mean.
yes.
Okay.
Questions or comments? Anyone in the audience that would like to speak on this? There's no further discussion. I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve?
Second.
First and second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any against? So moved. Moving on to item number 4, file number 230602, special use permit, Mercy Hospital, temporary parking lot.
All right. Okay, so actually Darren and I had some meetings with hospital administration, I guess even far back as a year ago, and then they came forward a couple weeks ago saying that they were ready to move forward with some temporary parking here. I'm sure as most of you are aware, our code does not actually have anything to define temporary uses. It has to be built to spec or get a variance if it doesn't, but in this case, what Mercy is calling temporary for themselves, it does meet our code so for the sake of the application, this is just a regular parking lot. And as you can see here, this is on the block that they own, the entire block here. Again, and we need to figure out a way to get the updated aerials, but this has now been cleared, but they obviously own from 1st all the way to 3rd and Hancock to 47. This lot actually has 2 zonings. At one point, before Mercy owned it, the previous owner was going to put some duplexes in this location, and that never came to fruition, but that's why you see the 2 different zonings here. And it actually happened to be, it fit the area that they're going to be utilizing for their parking lot. And so in our code, we kind of had 2 options. They could have gone to C1 like commercial, which is what the rest of the the campus is zoned. But until they have a kind of a final plan, since in their mind this was temporary, we went through some definitions, and hospital services is considered a special use in all the residential districts. So we thought, since this was going to be what, and they're defining temporary, that they may change, it would be better to do a special use permit for now. And then in the future, if they come in with a full plan of redevelopment, they can either submit a new special use permit for the whole block or just rezone the block to match. And so as you can see here, here's the proposed site plan that they submitted, 52 spaces. It does have a singular access point off Hancock, which does connect or line up with the alley across the street. So it has good sight distance there and doesn't have, offset. There is no alley. This was previously vacated at one point that went across there, so there's no current alley that they have to get vacated. But as you can see here, they have that singular access, 52 spaces, and then these dotted areas are what they have for their stormwater retention with some amended soils. So the only thing is that there's no, if you notice, there's no handicap parking on this. Obviously, this will not be the closest parking for their customers or their patients or their staff. So we obviously had no issue with that. And then you can see there's also a crosswalk proposed that our traffic committee is working with them on. And actually it's good timing because we are in the process of, I think we're going to bid pretty soon on 3rd Street overlay. And so we can work that into our plans for the 3rd Street overlay that's happening this year anyway. So staff recommends approval of the special use permit, and again, once they decide to expand in the future, they'd have to either come in with a new plan or get it rezoned at that point. So we think we know there's parking issues out there. I think it's worse on the east side of 47, but it definitely happens on the west side of 47 as well. So this just provides the neighborhood more off-street parking that you'll see on 3rd and Hancock oftentimes, so.
Questions, comments by board?
I can just attest as a Mercy coworker that parking is much needed, especially on that side. There's a lot of ambulatory outpatient services. And at this point, like Sal said, there's really nothingness there. So, I mean, it's not really being useful at all. So it makes a lot of sense, in my opinion. Just for the healthcare resource that we have, it makes sense to leverage it.
What is the definition of amended soils?
I actually don't know. I just know that in our code, it allowed Andrea Lucan, our assistant city engineer, looked at, and it is, I guess, more permeable soil for stormwater retention. You wanna
If
come
you
to the
would, come on up.
microphone? Yeah.
Introduce yourself.
I'm Dennis Pruitt with Heidemann and Associates. I'm the civil engineer on the project. So amended soils, they mix in compost with the native soil, 8 to 12 inches deep. And like you said, it increases the percolation of the water into the soil.
So then do you sow grass over the top of it, or is it mulch based?
Yeah, you really won't be able to tell the difference. It's just grass.
Okay, okay.
Yep, it can be mowed and just like regular grass.
Yeah. Actually, Charles, our interim city engineer, and Andrea were in the meeting when we met with them and mentioned that is a possibility in our code that we allow, so.
Any other questions, comments?
Well, it isn't really, this is weird, but I know there are a few trees left. I hope you'll be able to keep them.
We are working around all of them but one.
That's
There's
good.
one that's at the entrance to where the alley used to be, and it's where our new entrance is gonna
Right,
be.
right.
The tree doesn't look very good right now
That's
to
all
begin
right.
with.
That you're making an effort, I appreciate.
Oh, definitely, definitely. Yeah, the hospital is wanting to keep as many of the mature trees that are left. you know,
Right,
after
right, not a
clearing
lot
them.
left, but
Yes.
it's been a really pretty park. And you've maintained it very well, they have, but,
Well, I think the parking lot is wanted.
oh,
by Mercy
yes.
staff.
I don't think you'll
Uh,
have any argument from anybody that parking is
Any patient
definitely.
either.
Always feel so bad for staff, because I'm sure they're the ones that are on the street, so that, those of us who limp are a little closer to the building,
When I was surveying out there, I was getting a lot of questions.
I bet.
Yeah. Is this for the new parking lot? Like, yes.
Any other questions, comments?
How many, sorry, how many cars can fit from the outlet of the parking lot to the stop sign? Do you know?
I do not know.
It looks kind of tight.
From the,
If you pull out of the parking lot and want to go left or right on Hancock, I'm just curious if that would be, you think that would be a problem, getting out of there?
do you have a requirement for no on-street parking within a certain distance of an entrance?
I think we do, don't we?
Yeah, I
Sal?
think,
Signs can be put up, I guess.
yeah, I think it'll be striped so many feet off of there, or yellow painted. Say that'll be a question for our streets department.
I mean, there was an alley entrance there prior.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And the apron is still existing there, so I don't,
If it's not put in, it becomes an issue, then our traffic committee can
right,
go out there. I mean, that's in our right of way, so we would have the ability to go
Right.
stripe it.
okay.
It wouldn't be that long of an area, though, really. If you look at other ones where you have visual, you have, that you have sight line is what it's usually, so you're not gonna have much problem, I think.
I wouldn't think so. I mean, if it was, just a few cars on each side of the entrance,
Right,
I think that'd be sufficient.
right.
I mean, the speed on Hancock is what, at the most 25, 30 or something like that.
Any other questions, comments?
What's the street width on Hancock? Do you remember, Sal?
I couldn't tell you, I
First
know.
Street's a collector street. But I don't think Hancock is the same
No.
width.
Yeah, I don't know if it's quite 35 feet, but I would say between 30 and 35.
Is there a curb and gutter everywhere on Hancock? I think there is.
Yeah,
Yeah, there
I don't know
is.
if you
There
can
is.
Zoom into that or not.
It's on the left side.
Is there? Okay.
I just drove past it.
West
There's
side,
curb and guttering on that.
Okay.
I mean, on First Street, there's even a short section of sidewalk still there.
Yep.
I was just curious.
Any other questions, comments?
I guess, Sal, what would be so if they wanted to make it permanent, is there like a pro or a con to doing this another special use permit or just doing the rezoning?
Yeah, there's not, I mean, because we don't identify it temporary or permanent. To us, it's permanent. A special use permit stays with it. And so when they want to expand it, they would just come back with either another special use permit or a rezoning. So, yeah.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak on this?
There you go. You can see all the cars parked there.
Yeah.
Curb and gutter.
Google Maps.
Any further discussion by board? If not, I entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Thanks.
And I forgot to mention, this and the preliminary plat will both be going to council on Monday. The preliminary plat will have a final because there's no public improvements required, so it can move right along, and the special use permit can be voted on that night as well.
Are you? doesn't
I'm sorry,
say-
Tuesday. Monday's a holiday. Thank you.
Right. I was just going to ask that.
All right, item number 5, file number 230603, rezoning 1780 High Street from R2 to PDR.
Yes. And so this is the first step of this rezoning. Because it is a PDR, which is a planned residential request, and I'm sure we've gone through this enough times now, but I put my staff report, it requires kind of that 5-step process. The first is that sketch plan review by P&Z and allows the public and commission and staff to comment on the plan for it to be brought back as a preliminary development plan to P&Z again the following month. So this again is the first step. There's not necessarily any action needed tonight other than to accept it into your minutes, make comments on any changes that you would like to see, or if you think it doesn't meet the checklist. We did sit down with them. I think they have everything that is needed on our code in the checklist, and then we can put it back on the agenda for next month. But the subject property here, and you have to excuse my map making, our maps have not been updated in this area because a final plat has not been submitted for the west side of High Street. The developer opted to put the improvements in first and final plat second, which is perfectly fine. It just, when that happens, that means our maps aren't updated until the improvements are done, and that's what's under construction now. But this area I've highlighted, we actually rezoned last year to R1C, single-family attached, which allows for the more traditional duplexes. And then on the other side of the creek is where the R1D, single-family residential for the street and the cul-de-sac coming off of Sophia. You can see this is just across the street from the preliminary plat that we approved. And so previously this was for traditional duplexes. Bridgewater Communities has come up with an application for this planned residential, and you can see here with the zoning, you have that senior community district, which if that were to come in today, would have to come into the PDR, which is what they're asking. So it is as close as you can get to what they're requesting over here. It's just our code changed in between. And then just so everyone's aware, this donut is also going to council for annexation on Tuesday as well. We had to, you all approved that at your last meeting, but there was some conversations about the sewer connection that we put that off at council, so it'll be finalized next week. So this will all be in the city limits, and this is commercial as well when it comes in. And so here you can see the R1D, and again, this strip onto the south has been rezoned a match, but again, our maps just don't reflect that until the final plat gets recorded, which hopefully will be in the next few months now that most of those improvements are done. So here is the sketch plan that was submitted. You can see there's 6 buildings here. And as I described in my staff report, they are single-story, still single-family attached style buildings. The only difference is from R1C to PDR is that they're going to have multiple shared walls. So in R1C, you can only have a shared wall on one side down the middle, and then you can actually have your property line down the middle. They would have been able to go to just R3 or multifamily and allow for this density and this style development. It would have fit on the acreage, but the issue being with their request being fee simple, meaning they would actually sell these individually. You need the property line down the middle, and that changes it to a planned residential where we allow the property lines down the middle. That does not change necessarily the fire code for that in the building code. They still have to have the fire ratings in between. We did discuss with them that it will have to be rated through the attic all the way to the roof line, so it's separated. But you can see here it starts with a 4-unit, and there's 2 6-unit buildings. There's 2-unit more traditional duplexes, another 4, and then a 3, totaling to 25 units. All of them access Walter Way with actually a shared driveway. So you'll see in the last slide here, and it was in your packet as well, there's a 2-car garage that splits it, so there's a shared driveway. So you have a parking stall in your garage and then a parking stall obviously in the driveway. So each unit will have 2 spaces, as you can see here. And then actually this was designed around the existing utilities. So one thing in our sketch plan requirements is to call out all proposed and existing and proposed utilities. You can see here the sanitary sewer has that existing on there. That is a new line that has been put in. It kind of wraps around here and it serves the back. This is the R1D that has yet to be final platted, and then there's this creek buffer around here. You can kind of see it wraps all the way around. So they have designed this to stay out of that easement. Particularly, you can see actually how this patio here is cut off and diagonal, and this one's on the side. That is to stay out of those easements. For that, it's not, I don't believe it's actually a deck, it's just a patio, but we don't allow building permits on top of easements, because if we have to dig that up, we would obviously have to, we'd have to dig up their patio. And so I think I also mentioned in the staff report that the density actually is met, so they have the average density when you divide out the acreage and the number of units is about 6,000 square feet per unit, which is our minimum in R1C. So they would have had to do 6,000 per unit anyway on the square footage of the land. But again, it's because they have the shared walls that it's triggering the PDR need. So I know a lot of the times that PDR, it's because of density and setbacks and a couple things that are unique. But in this case, it really is just the shared walls is what the uniqueness to this that required the PDR. And then on the sketch plan, we require some type of proposed landscaping if needed. In this case, they're proposing to utilize existing buffers. I know some of this is not on their property, but they still showed it around to the area. To the east here, this is the common ground actually for autumn leaf, but I think it's very safe to say utilizing that as an existing buffer because you can see the topo. This is the existing creek line that runs through here that obviously is not buildable area. So it's safe to say that is a pretty permanent buffer. To the north, you have the stormwater detention for all of Highland Meadows. So you actually have the buffer, even though it's commercial, you still have that area that's in a detention basin easement. And then to the south, you actually have this creek buffer as well, where we put this is a new culvert where High Street crosses. So it's pretty well buffered between the single family. We always kind of preach that transitional zoning, since this is slightly higher density than traditional single family, still single family attached, but obviously gets up to 6 plexes. We feel this is a good transition between single family, and then given it is not directly anywhere in there said it is senior housing required, but I think it's pretty clear that it's senior housing marketed, and that fits well into the surrounding uses. We actually kind of joke that High Street Extension's becoming the Boca Raton of Washington as you go down there. It's pretty much all retirement as you get down south. So it fits in well on High Street there. So we really don't have any comments or concerns with the sketch plan. We don't think at this time there's any need for additional landscaping. We have reviewed this with our site plan committee and our fire department representatives in there, and their main comments said would come during the building code review, but other than that, it has all the access points. So we do recommend approval and let them go forward with preliminary development plan next month.
Questions, comments? Go ahead, John.
The 30-foot street width, is that going to allow parking on both sides?
No, one side only.
One side only.
Correct.
Any other questions, comments?
So the reason why they didn't have anything really on the south side of it is just because of the easement or the creek, right? They just couldn't fit it.
Yep.
Any other questions, comments by board? Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on this? Please introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Tim Miller. I'm the owner of Bridgewater Communities. Bridgewater Communities is a home building company, but we specialize in villas. If you're not familiar with this, we've been in the Washington area since 2003. We did villas at River Crossing, which is actually just a half mile north of this location. And we're in villas at Weber Farms right now at the end of Rabbit Trail. We're doing villas at Franklin County, down off Highway 8 in Krakow. All those communities are our traditional product, which is 1,600 square foot with full basements. These, over the years, we've come to realize that there's another market out there. So these are age targeted, these are not age restricted, but there's a market segment of couples and/or single men or women that are divorced or widowed that have been raised their kids on large acreage lots, ranch, 2 stories, laundry in the basement sometimes. And the properties are just too big to manage and take too much time. They want something smaller, but they want nice and security and convenience. They don't want to have to move to an apartment, and they're too vital to move into an assisted living facility. So this is our answer for that. So these are 1,056 square feet. They're 1-car garage, 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom, 9-foot flat ceilings, very nice features, very few amenities that you need to add to it. Luxury vinyl plank flooring, granite countertops come with it. There's no steps to get into the house from the garage or from the front door. Master bathroom has a low step-in shower. Hall bathroom has a tub shower. Lots of storage, walk-in pantry, walk-in closets. So, and these are fee simple, and that's why we did the different zoning. So these are for sale, and you own the property and the homes and the entire home site on these when you buy the title. And then the homeowners association has an easement to come onto the property that maintains lawn care, landscaping, snow removal after 2 inches of snow, and a few maintenance items on the house. So Sal had mentioned too that the city was possibly in the new comprehensive plan talking about more senior housing
Yep.
for the population.
Yeah, that is one thing I did not mention, that even our existing comprehensive plan, but it's going to wrap into our new one, is that life cycle housing, to have diverse options from young professionals all the way up to senior housing. And obviously that this one opens up additional options for senior housing in the area, but the goal being that it being unrestricted, that, you know, there's no minimum income or anything that's tied to it, that hopefully it, you know, can open up a lot of the existing housing market that we have here, that may be they're holding on to their homes, have the opportunity to do that, and then that allows those existing homes to get into as possibly first-time home buyers. So that whole life cycle, kind of what we talk about, so.
Keeps these buyers out of apartments that have to park on surface parking and take their groceries upstairs. The garage door opener standard, so safety, security, and value is what our customers are looking for on these.
Any questions, comments by board?
No comment about, but is there basements in these, or?
No, these are slab on grade because these buyers don't want basements and the stairs take up extra room. They want everything on one floor. So, and there's patios on the back, which we talked about, around the sanitary easement in the back. We built these successfully up in St. Peters, Missouri, and sold them out very quickly. There's quite a bit of demand for this product, and nobody's actually building it. And quite frankly, a lot of zoning isn't up to speed on this yet, so we can't necessarily build it.
We had something similar years ago, but those on Beaker Road, aren't those about the same?
Those are all duplex, those are all single shared wall though.
But still, it's like
Yeah.
that type of thing.
Yeah.
In the past, and so it's like nobody's built anything like that for quite a while. First, like you say, smaller, first single, whoever, so.
Right.
Any other questions, comments? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this?
The only thing I did mention, I know their engineer mentioned as well, that they're going to review, because of the fire rating, that, you know, it doesn't need 360 access, but I did talk to them today, there may be the need for an additional hydrant in the rear, somewhere on here, where if it is needed, we'll have that by the preliminary plan and shown on an easement, because if that way that, you know, we weren't sure about that 150 feet, they were going to confirm that on each side, but I talked to Wunderlich Engineering, and thought they were gonna be able to show that on the preliminary plan, so. And at site plan, with the fire rating, that didn't come up as much, so.
It's just kind of interesting to me that the site's already developed and streets in and everything's set, and here we are.
Well, it's because it was developed for the R1C,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, that Walter Way was approved to go in, we got development plans for it, for the R1C, and there were actually, everything but the sewer laterals, because you have to have individual laterals. Yeah, because they could have gone forward without any zoning approval with traditional duplexes, and then when Bridgewater came in, we just said you need to
Okay.
rezone it, yep.
Any other questions, comments by board, discussion? Entertain a motion?
Motion to approve?
First and second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Thank you.
Thank you. And then just so we know, this will not go to council Tuesday, this will come back before you all one more time, but for the preliminary development plan, which will then get sent on to council with a resolution and ordinance.
Right. Moving on, voting on chairperson and co-chairperson. I'll entertain nominations.
I nominate Tom Holtmeyer as
I'll
chair.
second.
Oh. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I should say our nomination's closed. Is there a second?
Second.
No. Oh, there was.
There was.
Any opposed? So moved. Moving on to co-person. Is there a nomination?
Don't be shy.
I'll nominate John Borgman.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved.
Hey, Tom's retired now, he doesn't have an excuse to miss too many meetings.
More excuses now.
Yeah.
If I just get my emails, that, it's not all your fault. My emails have also been messed up that I switched to.
Well,
Yeah, I've heard
think I've done multiple threads now where I email the wrong one first and then redo it with the correct one, so.
Oh,
Thank you for your vote of confidence.
yeah.
So you will get,
Sal, anything else?
Yeah, so just, I sent out an email about a discussion about parking minimums. And again, there's nothing official on the agenda tonight. I just wanted to have it start as a discussion and have it on everyone's radar. What we plan to do is the official public hearing in July. But I did send some parking standards per the American Planning Association. They give, if you took a look through there, it's a really long document, but instead of really giving recommendations exactly what to do, they give you a lot of examples of what other communities do. And this is not the first time we've done this over the years, as we have started to kind of follow the national trend of lowering our parking minimums. I think for a long time, we, along with most cities, required parking for like kind of worst case scenario. And then a lot of it sits vacant most of the time. Obviously, it is a hindrance for our developers because it's more, work they got to put into it. But more importantly, what's coming up, as I'm sure you've read over the past few months, we failed our stormwater MS4 audit, and there are different things that they like us to take into consideration about decreasing runoff throughout the community. And one of them is, one of the biggest things that it happens to is the runoff from parking lots and all the affluents that come along with that. And then as I put in my email, this is full disclosure, is we started having a conversation with the new developers, the new owners of the Washington Terrace development. They showed us their standard site plans that they did in St. Peter's and O'Fallon and showed what their parking ratios were, and that they have reason to believe they never have issues with not having enough parking, given their number of 1-bedrooms versus 2 and 3. And so they asked about the variance process. We went through that. We started talking internally that we try to avoid sending people to a variance if there is actual reasoning to change the code. And a good example is this, the shoe factory. Now, as I put in my email, things in walkable areas, they can be different case by case, but we did lower that down to 1.7 parking spaces per unit instead of 2. And that was based on the number of one-bedroom studios that he had in there. And actually, if you go by there, it seems like I haven't heard issues from the neighbors necessarily. No one's called or complained. But, and so I did, and I plan, I actually reached out to ELS, who's done most of our apartment developing recently, and just want to get their opinion. We've been playing phone tag, but obviously I'll let them know at the official public hearing if they want to talk about their experience specifically at 100 West. It's hard to see when you drive by. It's not full, but that doesn't mean I'm there at the appropriate times when I see that. They have 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms there as well. So I was curious to his opinion, now that it's full, if he felt it was overparked. And so we did also pull up the standards at O'Fallon and St. Peter's, where ZM, the new owner, has been doing a lot of development, and they both have 1.5 parking spaces for each 1-bedroom unit and 2 spaces per unit for 2 bedrooms and above. Right now, we are just 2 across the board. And so I thought it was reasonable to maybe look at lowering that to match what St. Peter's and O'Fallon does for that 1.5 for 1 and 2. That's what I have underlined here. I also, not that we need to scroll all the way through this, but I sent this link out that has the parking standards. And there were a couple of options. I mean, you could get much more complex with it based on square footage. I did send that to Mark and Darren and some people and staff, and we internally decided this would probably be the easiest way to start right now. And if you decide to get a little more complex, we could. But we just didn't build large apartment complexes for a long time, and now that it's happening, I think it makes sense to catch up our code. So that would be, I don't know if I can get it to show up.
Sal, do you know what Chesterfield, City of Chesterfield has?
I did not look up theirs, but I could.
Because I know there's a lot of 3-story, 2-story apartment buildings,
Yeah.
Complexes down there that have been there for 15, 20 years, and maybe would be another good judge.
I'll look up Chesterfield, and I'll look up St. Charles as well, because they've changed their commercial to allow that mixed use too, as well, okay, what we talked about in the comp plan. So I'll be curious to see how they mix their retail and apartments into their parking.
Just to get another regional view at it.
Yeah.
Something that's been there a little bit longer.
Yeah, and I'm trying to pull this parking standard up, but if you guys have time to look at there it is. What I like about these manuals from APA is the examples it gives you. It's 87. They tell you the size population of the town that they're looking at. This document itself is actually kind of old. I think this is the exact same one we used in college, over 10 years ago. So, but I don't know how much it really.
Only 10 years ago.
Well, so it's not that outdated. Okay. So, but we think it even then it had these examples for 1.5 and for 1 and 2 for 2. So,
Well, with a lot more of the online shopping and stuff like that, I mean,
Yeah.
it's
we lowered our retail by 25%, 20% a couple years ago. Because it was, we were overparked, and even if you look, that's how JCPenney's, when they started selling off the outlots, it's because we had
Yeah.
changed our zoning code that they didn't need all that parking anymore.
right.
So, again, we'll do an official public hearing in July. I just wanted to get out in front of it. Again, I didn't feel like we needed to, not that these are flowing in, I'm curious what it's going to do to our market when ZM has 310, 320 units come on board. We may not see another big complex come for a while, which is fine. If our market, right now there's a wait list everywhere. I think we're less than 1% vacancy rate right now, which basically means when an apartment comes online, someone has to snag it right away.
That's just rentals.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just rental. And I have heard of people getting jobs here, trying to live here, and they are like, yeah, I'm in Union for this month to month until something opens up.
I feel like it makes sense. Just being a young professional, I like it, but also if you think of, they might have a car, but a lot of people aren't even buying cars at this point. They just have bikes, especially I feel like with our new comp plan.
Yeah.
I feel like it makes it a lot more walkable. in like the downtown, the residential area, so.
Yeah, yeah, and that's where it mentions in here that a lot of cities will change that code based on how walkable the area is, so it can be case by case. I think for right now, you know, if we could kind of keep it that standard 1.5 for 1, 2 for anything above, and then if anything is kind of like the shoe factory where they're gonna need a PDR anyway for the density, then parking we can take walkability into account at that point.
John, Chesterfield is 1.75 spaces for every living unit.
So they just kind of split the middle.
Yeah, yeah.
Any other discussion? Sally, you need anything
Nope,
else?
I just, I don't really have an update on the comp plan. Thank you to everyone who came to our last public forum on that. I think it's been mostly especially that one, mostly our boards and commissions, but honestly, I think those are some of the best people to show up because they're gonna, if they stay on the boards and commissions throughout the 10 years, then they're gonna be the ones voting on a lot of the developments and stuff that come
Vested
through. Yeah, vested interest. So, our consultants continue to be impressed with the turnout and, you know, from our surveys and everything, so, I think we're above average for most of the communities on how involved people are on this, so, you know, we're still gonna do one more. I have not seen the revised plan based on those comments. That's typically what they'll do. We need another steering committee meeting. I think we only paid for one more, so what I think we'll probably do is do the public forum first, and then have a final steering committee with a draft. I would even say we may ask to pay for one more to review that twice, but what's coming along, we're still targeting for this fall, you know, August, September. The economic development strategic plan, I'm supposed to have a draft this week already. So that's pretty much wrapped up, and then they want to tie that in, obviously, to the full comp plan, so.
Will that go to the steering committee too, or does that stay?
Yeah, it'll be sister documents. We'll send both over, yep. Because we want them to reference each other, so,
That'd be interesting.
yeah. Yep. And actually, the only reason that got sped up, full disclosure, is that our EDA grant that we're applying for needed a economic development strategy that is, and our one is from 2015, and per federal guidelines, it has to be less than 5 years old to qualify for the grant. So luckily, our consultant said I can send EDA a draft, and that qualified. So I don't even know if they would have sent the draft early if EDA wasn't requiring it. So I think that's just why they're ahead of the curve on this. So,
Good.
which they've been great to work with on that. They've jumped on calls with our grant administrator that was not part of the original scope, and so they've been very helpful.
I think it'd be nice if the city can get information faster. You wait every 10 years.
Yeah.
You're way
Yeah,
past.
so I think for how pricey it is, the comp plan makes sense to keep it at the 10 years, and then we can internally update it, but for the economic development strategy, yeah, to amend that's now what the federal government is saying for the grants, you gotta have one that's 5 years or less old.
Yep.
So, and 2015 was our last one, so.
Any other discussion? Entertain one last motion.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved.
Thank you, guys.
So
He is the assistant port engineer.
Oh.
He inspects all big ships going